Have you ever felt completely stuck, like you're standing at the crossroads in life and you're feeling maybe overwhelmed, whether it's because of career change, empty nester, becoming a mom? All of these are causing you to feel really stressed. Well, if that sounds like you and you're in the middle of it, then this conversation is for you. Today, I'm joined with Fatima Dehab, a licensed mental health counselor in Florida, private practice owner of Mindful Directions. She's been a therapist for over a decade and also has years of experience as a clinical supervisor. Fatima, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to do this. Yeah, I've been in the field for a while now. I started in private practice and then I moved into the hospital roles. And so I was the clinical supervisor there. And I loved it, but it was very, very intense. And I was there for a while. And then I opened up my own practice in 2017, I think. And then I've been there ever since. And I love it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love private practice. It's been great. And now I'm just gearing towards bigger and better things too.
Yes, yes. I'm really excited. So, fun fact, Fatima and I actually know each other from grad school. So, we were just saying it's actually a weird experience because we actually met each other before we were therapists. And then we've been on this journey together as baby
We grew
therapists.
together.
We grew together. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so, it's just really great. And to kind of just see other therapists and friends, and I consider you a family, which is actually weird because we were talking about this the other day with another really close friend of ours that we're actually rare that we're still in the field
Yeah,
10 plus years later.
yeah, yeah.
And then what's really exciting is that now you're doing these bigger and better things. So I know now you're starting to run these amazing retreats in Ecuador, which is
Mhm.
sounds like a beautiful location in and of itself,
It
but you're
is.
doing some
Yeah.
retreats for women's and couples.
Yes, yes. I'm so excited. This is kind of like I was talking to you guys about it too, that it's kind of like a very full circle moment in my life because it's kind of like taking all the areas of my life, like Ecuador is where I was born and raised, and then taking my expertise of
Mhm.
mental health and like putting it all kind of together into this great package.
Mhm.
So it feels very whole circle for me. So I'm very, very excited, very passionate about this project, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see just as it continues to help more and more people
Mhm.
because I have the like knowing you and knowing your work and trusting, and I've referred numerous people to you, both individuals and couples.
Mhm.
That's rare to be able to say that in the field that you know someone and you trust their clinical work and you
Oh my
trust
gosh.
when you're referring someone somewhere that they're going to get good skills that they need because
Yeah,
unfortunately
you're in good hands.
yeah, they're in good
Yeah,
hands. There's a lot of people out there that I don't
yeah,
necessarily trust, and it looks really
yeah,
pretty on paper, but I
yeah,
don't know if I send them off to a retreat or to a referral, if they're
yeah.
going to get good work done. But I guess
Mhm.
I want to pause here for our viewers and ask them: have you ever gone through a big life transition, or are you currently in the midst of that? Comment below and tell us your story because we're going to share some of the transitions we've gone through, but we definitely want to hear about the transitions that you've gone through. Let us know in the comments below. Just comment on the video below. Okay, so let's back up a little bit and let's start with some of the basics. What do we mean by like these big life transitions?
Oof, that's a good question. So, I think transitions like really challenge identity for
Mhm.
all of us. And we go through transitions literally since we've been born
Yeah.
to, but as we age, I think there's like a higher and higher expectations about what transitions should and could look like. And I
Mhm.
think that creates a ton of restriction and a ton of stress. And yeah, I think that transitions are incredibly challenging, but are also opportunities for growth. And I think
Mm,
that's where if we learn a little bit about how to manage these
yeah.
transitions and like maybe we can not necessarily see them as like, oh my God, another transition in our life,
Sure.
but more like invite them in of like, okay, this is an opportunity to continue to grow as an individual and continue to kind of explore yourself and what you want and what makes you truly like feel you, you know?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
love how you're saying that because I think you're right. Like life transitions maybe sometimes get a bad rap. And
Hmm.
not to say that they're not stressful, and not to say that they don't come with their own challenges, because I think you're right.
For
They
sure.
do identify a lot of our kind of maybe these roles that we hold about our identity and who we are. And if some of these transitions, either we're going through an identity shift or there's a new identity that shows up that maybe we're dealing with, or we have to let go of an identity, that can be
Yes.
really stressful,
So
right? We think about
hard.
like
Hmm.
that classic when someone retires, right? And if they don't have
Hmm.
other things in their life, like that's a huge kind of difficulty for them. Or
Huge.
kind of any transition when you know these kids are graduating college or starting their
Mhm.
career, or
Um,
when you're becoming a family or a partnership. There's so many transitions that can really challenge who we are.
Yeah.
But you also
I
said
think
like
it
that,
shakes the foundation. I think it
yeah,
shakes the foundation of who we think we are or who we think we need to be. And I think
mm,
that feels very scary.
yeah.
Feels very scary.
Yeah. Well, I guess talking about shaking the foundation, because I think you also said, they can also be an opportunity for growth. But I think before we grow, maybe some of that, like we have to feel some of the shakes.
Oh,
Like there's
yes.
no
Yes.
growth without it being difficult. Like I always tell my clients, like, there's no way here for you to
There's no
avoid
easy
this
way.
pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any path that we go here, there's no pain-free path as much as we keep trying to find the one, and it's normal that we want that.
Yeah.
But I guess, has there been certain foundations that have really shaken you to the core?
Oof. I think the biggest one, yes. Short answer, yes.
Sure, sure.
But becoming a therapist was definitely one
Oh, yeah, for
a
sure.
huge
Okay.
transition, right? Like just kind of going back there, but that's not the one. So I think the biggest one I would say right now for me is that I've always really, really prided myself in, as women, we wear a lot of hats. And my favorite hat of all time is being a mom. And I've
Mm-hmm.
taken so much pride in who I am as a mother and raising two amazing, gorgeous children and who are now basically adults. Uh, so
Of
I think that is my biggest transition because, like, I'm still mom and I'm still always going to
course.
be mom, but like, my role in their lives is not as in the day to day, every
Sure.
minute kind of thing. And they have to go out and do the thing. I mean, my daughter is literally moving out in a month. So,
Oh,
so
I mean,
that's
it's
a
good for her, but
transition
I say, oh, like as a parent, like, oh,
for sure. Yeah, no, but I'm so excited for her. I'm really, really proud of who she is as a human, but like, it is really hard. It is really hard to let go and you know hope for that everything kind of works out and you have to let them go. You have to.
mhm.
So that transition I think is definitely shaken me to my core because I'm like, okay, if I take out this mom hat, then what?
What's
What is
left?
what is it like? How do I interact with people?
Mhm. Yeah.
If I don't have my mom group?
Well, and I think too, like you said, I mean, like you said, you'll always be a mom, and I have the distinction of meeting your kids. Your kids are amazing, so you've done a great job as a mom. But I think, right, your role as a mom changes, right, so much over the
Yeah,
years. And I think because I work a lot with new moms, and they're in the thick of like, oh my gosh, like this is so hard and figuring it out. And even that identity piece of like, now I have to do pickup and drop off and like all these changes and transition to who I am. And at times feeling really lost, like they've lost themselves a little bit.
for
Um,
sure.
and then it's kind of like once you start to find your groove, and of course, as every age that your kid changes and they need different things from you and you transition, but
Yeah,
this is like a huge transition from like not having your kids be there, like, live
yeah,
in your house, needing
yeah.
the like, Mom, I'm hungry. Mom,
Can
I
you
don't have,
make me dinner?
yeah, yeah. Or Mom, can I go out? Or Mom, just
Yeah, can I borrow the car?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Mom, I don't have anything to wear. I need you to do laundry. Whatever it is
Yeah,
that like day in and day out of like
yeah,
becomes part of who you are. Once that's gone, that's a huge shift
yeah.
to now like, okay, well, I wasn't who I was before I had kids.
Mhm. Right,
But
right,
who am I now, or how do I want to start to figure that out? And with all this time too that you have on your hands.
right. It's different. It's definitely different. And I also think like the transition of like when we're in the thick of it, we don't necessarily have the time, the space, the mental load to be
Sure.
able to like even think about, oh, who am I, right? And so sometimes just taking that space and if I
Mm-hmm.
were to go look back and I'd be like, okay, I would say, Fatima, like make sure you're taking that space throughout the years to like
Mm-hmm.
reconnect. And I feel like I've been pretty balanced. Like, I have a really great career. I have a great group of friends and so I do feel like I have a pretty great balance in terms of who I am as a woman. But like again, my biggest hat has always been mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just allowing myself to kind of transition, but taking that time space to really reflect, to really like think about like, okay, now I can focus a little bit more on myself, and like I can focus a little bit more on what it is that I want. And do I want to
Mm-hmm.
travel? Do I want to, I don't know, pick up a new sport? I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
sure.
see. We'll see where life takes me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you said that too. Sometimes we get so lost in like the midst of it, and that while we're in it, we don't see it. And I think sometimes I work a lot with clients, either in therapy or coaching, where I think part of the helpful role being someone that works with people is that you get to see things that they're not seeing when they're in it,
Right.
right? Because they're like you're so in it. It's sometimes like they have
Yeah.
blockers. Like you think of those
That's why I
horses
love
that
our work.
I
We
know.
get to see-
Yeah, I mean, because
I
you
love
get
what
to
we do.
see things and you get to like help them
Yeah.
point out things that maybe they're not realizing. But
Yeah.
another huge part of that is sometimes when they're in like the day in and day out, like, sometimes with some of my moms, I'll tell them, like, okay, like, can you take like 15 minutes? And she's like, no, they're going to bang down the door. I take 15 minutes, which I get, right? And it's
Yeah.
really hard. But I
Yeah.
think this is something you reference is at times, sometimes we do need to force ourselves to get out of our environments to reconnect with ourselves, which, I mean, we're not speaking just to moms. It can be to any woman because that could be any environment that like kind of,
Or any kind of transitions, right? And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
like society also puts this kind of crazy pressure on what women should look like in their 20s, 30s, 40s,
Oh
50s
gosh. Yeah.
and beyond, right? So I
Yeah.
think that whenever we as women go through any kind of transition, whether we want to work or have children or not have children or whatever, like I really definitely think that it's managing that societal
Oh,
craziness of what that's supposed to look like.
yeah. No, I agree because it feels like, at least in our society, it's like you can't get it right. It almost feels like no matter which
And
way
and
you
I'm
do
sure
it.
and I'm sure you experience this with a lot of your clients too, like that they feel this way, that it's like no matter what is being done, whether they have a super high power job and or they're amazing moms or they're amazing wives or like whatever, that it
Mhm.
still feels like I'm not doing enough, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
It's never
exhausting.
like it's
Exhausting.
never enough. You're not meeting the expectations.
Mhm.
Something's always lacking.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like even whether it's this transition from like because I also work with a lot of Gen Zs, and like in their 20s, same thing, and they're transitioning to being young professionals and what this means, or when they're trying to figure out who they are outside of maybe their family or their family values, and if there's some clashes there, it's difficult. I
Mhm.
also work with a lot of first gen, so like that
Mhm.
generational, like if what you want is different than what your family wants,
Oh
like
my gosh. That's a
that's a
transition.
that's a transition. That's a
Yeah.
transition, and it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
I'm just thinking even about in my own life these moments of transitions. You spoke to one being a therapist, and I've talked about that a little bit. But that for me, that was actually a really hard transition. Like the nights I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could be a therapist. That transition was really hard, and I love the
Yeah,
work that I do, but it's also really hard work. I mean,
it is.
if
It is.
any therapist tells you that it isn't, then I don't know what type of work they're doing, but
No,
it's
no,
hard work.
it is.
It's hard
It is
work.
for sure.
Um, that was a huge transition. I recall, when I decided to leave my mom's house, and I left much later because I'm like Hispanic, and you're supposed to stay in your mom's home
Yes,
for as long as
yes.
possible.
I mean,
Well,
culturally, that's a thing too, because my daughter
yeah,
is 20 and she's leaving, and I'm like, we don't
no.
do this.
Yeah, I mean, and I say that, and I'm actually like in my group of girlfriends that are Hispanic and first gens as well.
Uh-huh,
Like, I was
uh-huh,
rare. Most of my friends only left their household when they got married, when they got engaged. Some
yeah,
of them went away for college, but even when they went away, they came right back,
yeah,
like to
yeah.
living with
Right.
their family.
Yeah.
And so even that, I remember that was a huge transition, and it felt really important for me to be able to do that, just to know that I'd be okay on my own.
Yeah, of
In my
course.
yeah, it's like, I remember feeling really guilty at the time about leaving my mom because I'm also very close to my mom.
Hmm.
And culturally, again, that's not a thing that you really do. And my
Right.
mom was great. I know she had a hard time and she tried really hard not to give me a guilt trip. Um, but I know it was hard for her. And I know, like, even that kind of navigating that, like, it's okay at times to put yourself first.
Hmm.
And I think this probably resonates to other kind of transitions at times of like needing to get really clear, like what you need, even if it comes with some discomfort for others. And then
Yeah.
I think about even in my relationship. So when I moved in with my now husband, um,
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. That was a really hard transition. And I say this
Yeah, of
because I
course.
think sometimes people paint this picture of like, of course, when you get committed and you move in, that it's like all
It's
rainbows and butterflies.
Disney. It's Disney.
It's like fairy tale, like, and I will say, I remember that
Yeah.
was a really hard transition for me and in a relationship.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's a piece too, kind of thinking about a little bit of your couples retreats that you do as
Mhm.
well, because
Yes.
and I also work with couples in my practice as well. It's
Yeah.
that a lot of times, like when you move in together, I think is it John Gottman that talks about every relationship has their own culture. So it's not even thinking
Yes.
about your culture,
I love that. Yes.
right? But like,
Yeah.
and you think about when you move in together, that's when you guys are figuring out those cultural
Yeah.
rules, navigating like what's okay, what's not okay. And sometimes it's like some huge adjustments.
Right. I mean, I love that. It's building a culture from scratch, right? And I think a lot of people miss that we're supposed to like just merge, but it's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's building from scratch of what that culture looks like, and I love that concept. But it's also staying open to the transitions as couples
Mm-hmm.
that they go through the different stages as the kids are older
Mm-hmm.
or like as the kids are leaving the nest and like what does
Mm-hmm.
that look like as a couple and I'm sure you see that in your practice because I see it a ton with my clients where the kids are leaving the home and they're like, oh, do we have
We
to
look
get
at
to know
each
each
other
other
like,
again? It's like, who are you?
yeah,
Are you have you
do I
actually
even
been
like
this way
you?
this whole time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Yeah,
And
so I
I
think
think,
it's really important to like allow yourselves to like, oh wait, let's reconnect in that sense and see where we go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think though, like, unfortunately, I think a lot of times with couples, it's like that sense of waiting too long. I think there's that with most couples wait like 7 years too late or something like
Yes.
there's that stat 6 or 7 years
Crazy.
too late to do couples
Yeah.
therapy. And I will say I see that a lot. You'll get the call when
Yeah.
they're like, this is their last ditch effort. And not that
Yeah.
couples therapy can't be helpful, but really kind of thinking about like if you can be proactive and think about
Yeah.
in any of these transitions, whether it's a transition of moving in together,
Yeah.
getting married, having kids, your
Yeah.
kids getting older, it's really
Yeah.
easy to kind of like lose the focus on your relationship or
Right.
kind of take things for granted.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something like in all these transitions, it's a great time also, like even removing yourself and kind of
Oh yeah.
checking in with your
Yeah.
partner, or even sometimes like kind of building in some concrete skills that I know a lot of us didn't have, or at least maybe weren't
Right.
modeled. At least they weren't modeled in my household.
Yeah, for sure. Or like we just weren't taught these things, right? Like we weren't taught how to communicate or regulate or like, connect or like we
Or
weren't taught.
I
It was just
statements, or let's
what?
take a break.
What is
Yeah,
that?
like yeah, or her
Yeah,
attachment
so I think it's
styles.
right, right. Or understanding like how like our needs need to be met or our love languages or what that even means. And I love those, I love the skills that we teach because I really do think it's a necessary component to making the world a better place. I know that sounds dramatic, but it really is.
Well, I mean, that's kind of Sue Johnson, who's the founder of Emotion Focused Therapist. That's kind of what she talks about. Like one of the premises of a lot of the couples work, it's like they really think about making the world better by starting with the couple. Because if you think
Yeah.
about a healthy couple, it kind of like
Healthy
and how
family. Yeah.
yeah, healthy family. So you think about healthy
Yeah.
attachments. Those kids are going to have healthy attachment styles, and then those kids go and have
Yeah.
healthy
Yeah.
relationships and keep and like how that just keeps kind of
Yeah.
manifesting. And then
Yeah.
also thinking about relationally, we're not just in couples, but like we're in constant relationship, right? I mean, I
Everything.
work with so many people too where it's like,
Yes.
they need to work through like getting
Yeah.
better relationships at work or, this
Friendships
constant,
and
yeah,
yeah.
friendships, everything. I mean, there's
Yeah.
this huge
Mhm.
relational aspect.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to I guess these transitions, what are, I mean, and I think we've both been sharing a little bit about our stories, but what are some common challenges that women tend to face when they're going through some transitions?
So I would say the biggest one would be women tend to isolate, feel very
Hmm.
alone, and
Hmm.
also feel the weight of the world on their shoulders, right? And so, like, I think going back to something we mentioned earlier, which is like the societal pressures that we're supposed to make it look easy, right? We're
Sure.
supposed to like have it all together and look pretty doing it.
Of course.
So, of course. And so I think that sometimes that tends to feel, I mean, we call it like perfectionism, or like a
Mm,
feel this concept of like looking like we have it all together, and like it's okay to like not. It's
mm,
okay to, and that doesn't mean you're not strong, right? Like I think that a lot of women tend to come into the office feeling like, oh my God, I'm so weak, or my life is a mess. And I'm like, you're not. It's
yeah.
not, you're not a mess. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have to go through these major moments of your life and feel like you don't know what the hell you're doing, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. For
so I
sure.
think like that's what it looks like, right? It looks like isolation, and it looks like um, discontent, maybe self-doubt,
Mm,
a lot of self-doubt. I know that starting this business for me was, even though
yeah.
I have all the tools, like for somebody like me that has all the tools,
Who
I
has a
still
successful business already.
well, yeah, exactly. But I still still going through, I am not even going to say that I'm not, still going through a lot of self doubt, and like working through a lot of those stigmas or talks that your brain kind of throws at you. So it's just learning how to work past those. I would
Yeah.
say that's what women go through.
For sure. I know. And I think that isolation is huge because I see that a lot. And I think with that isolation comes a lot of shame. I'll see a lot because there's a lot of, when we think of like that shame piece, a huge part of that is that sense of like secrecy, and that tends to fester shame. And so when we start to isolate and we don't tell our stories, or we don't seek support,
Mhm.
then it just gets stuck in our brain, right? And so those like, and if sometimes we're not checking those messages, or at least knowing that like, okay, some of that is my stuff, we can get really stuck in like just like those loops of like self-doubt or isolating or feeling really crappy about yourself. And I
Yeah.
see that a lot with women who are going through these transitions because they're kind of like in this silo, and they do feel embarrassed, or because they're not handling these transitions the way they should, or they're having thoughts and feelings that I don't know, they're not supposed to have, that society says.
Right.
And then they don't feel like they can turn to anyone. Or I sometimes what I think is worse is when they turn to people that are super unsupportive, which then like
Right. You're
makes
like,
it
just get
worse.
over it. What are you
Yeah,
talking
get
about?
over it. Or just like, they end up like kind of getting
Yeah.
slimed on a little bit. But it's so
Yeah.
interesting because like since we have the like we see people back to back, and so we hear commonalities, we hear stories. So we
Yeah.
have the privilege of like knowing that what someone's facing isn't like you're not unique.
Right.
Like we hear this all the time, and honestly, like that
We go
piece
through
of
it too. Yeah.
we go through it too, right? And so kind of like that piece of like, of course, like you said, there's moments when we go through transitions and we struggle and we're stressed, and we
Yes.
think we're not, we know that self-doubt or imposter syndrome or perfection or all of the above shows
Yeah.
up, that we can relate that that's just a normal process
Yeah.
that is part of the transition.
Mhm.
But that's I think
One thing that I wanted to add to that is like we didn't really talk about this part of it, but I focus a lot on it on the in my practice, and also in the retreats, of like the mind body connection, because like our
mm,
body goes through crazy transitions as well, like
sure.
getting going pregnancy, or like what your body
Mm,
looks like after pregnancy, or
mm,
like when we're going through menopause, and like what our body looks like throughout our lives changes so drastically, and we need to transition to it. So I focus a
mm,
lot on the mind body connection, as well as not
mm,
only the emotional changes. We know mind and body are connected, and they are constantly sending messages to each other. So it's
mhm.
just kind of like learning how to transition with both. And I think that's also a huge component of understanding and managing transitions, right?
Yeah. Well, and I
Mhm.
think that a huge piece of that too, like there's so much research that's coming out between like food and mental health connection, or like the gut and mental health, right? So we think about, and not from this place of like, stigmatizing food, but it's acknowledging that food is fuel, right? And thinking about
Yeah.
that same thing, like you think about mind body connection, you think about sleep, you think about
Right.
movement, all these things that when you're working with someone, you want to make sure that like what they're going through aren't things that are you can mitigate with some of these things that are happening, or really acknowledging like don't ignore what your body is going through. Which it sounds like, I know, I think in your retreat you do a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah. So the retreat focuses on the four main pillars. I focus on movement. So we have daily Pilates, which is
Oh,
very, very important. Nutrition. So everything is farm to table, and
oh,
all
I
the
love
meals
that.
is created by a nutritionist, and everything is, and we highlight the local flavors, which is delicious, obviously. Mental health, and then just overall wellness. So a lot of nature, sound healing, meditation, but obviously, you get the mental health, the clinical research, and the workshops from me there as well. So it's a very holistic, like complete program that focuses on all of it. So yeah, I'm very excited
Yeah,
about being able to offer
yeah.
something like this.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
it sounds like it's a great way to kind of go somewhere and tackle all of these things, and kind of it's sometimes like at this reset, like so we're kind of talking about,
Yes,
especially if you're like have been isolating or maybe even neglecting some of these things, like the other
as
piece
we
of
often
connect.
do. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like connecting with others, knowing you're not alone, and also connecting with others who are on this journey of wanting to prioritize themselves, find themselves, figure out how to move through this life transition. Okay, so you talked a little bit about this, but are there any kind of tools or strategies that you would give for someone as they're navigating a life transition?
yes, of course. Actually, I just wanted to point out, like today I posted this thing that sisterhood is medicine, and I love that
Oh,
quote. And like, because it is like, when you hang out with the right people or people that are going through the
mhm.
same journey with you, it really feels very holistic and like healing in so many ways. So love that.
Yes.
Just 2 cents. But
Well,
yes,
yeah. And I think I'm gonna say this, and but that was a little bit of like our journey through grad school. It's that we kind of found
100%.
our
Oh my
people, or and like we stuck to each other, and like we were like
God.
whoever was like going through it, but like that's what. And through this journey, 10 plus years later, that like it is really helpful to have people who get it, who are in your corner. Um, and I think that's just really important to keep, especially as you're going through these life transitions, because
Yeah.
we're all going to go through it. And the truth is, like, we need support when we're going through it. Like, we need people that
Yeah.
are going to get it and are going to be there and aren't going to judge us.
Yeah, I often credit like I think my success in grad school to our little group. That was so essential. I think it was fantastic, because like we did really create an amazing supportive environment, and everybody went through many many life transitions within that time, and we were just there for each other, and I think that's why we're still amazing friends today.
That's
You
right.
know?
That's right. Okay, so wait, going back to
Okay.
tools and strategies, what would
Yes.
be some tools and strategies that people could use when they're kind of going through this transition? Maybe they're feeling a little stuck in that transition.
So I think the first thing is pausing, right? Because sometimes we go automatically into problem solving mode. So I would say like let's stop, breathe, pause, what and identify what it is that you want, and then within that is creating smaller steps, right? We have a tendency to think big. I need to change my life.
Sure.
Like, okay, great, let's start with something really really small that we
Sure.
can do, that is achievable, that we can like focus on, that I think helps give you direction and clarity. So
Mhm.
I would say that would be an essential first component. And then I always tell this to all my clients, is that there's always three pillars in mental health that we need to focus on before we do any of like the cognitive deep rooted work. Is let's focus on movement, right?
Mhm.
So move your body every day
Mhm.
somehow.
Yep.
Sleep, make sure you get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day.
Yeah.
And then eat. Make sure you're eating throughout the day and
Yes.
healthy food that nourishes your body, and just kind of focus on that. If you feel like life is super overwhelming, focus on those three things initially just to kind of get you back to a baseline.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh,
Because sometimes those are things that are the first to go out the window. I don't have time to eat. I don't have time to go exercise. I don't have time to this, or I can't sleep, and
mhm.
we need those things to like regulate again that mind body connection. Because if your body is fueled, it will also give your mind that same fuel. So we need to make sure that we're creating that balance.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because I think when we are like all of us tend to go through stress, like it's really easy to let go of those basics that tend to really
Mhm.
quickly go out the window, but we don't really
Right.
recognize how quickly when we let go of those, it can show, right? I mean, just think about like when you don't sleep well, like how likely are you to be irritable or your anxiety goes up, or then you have more caffeine, right? And then the more caffeine you have, right, you're more jittery, right? Like
Right.
that's just like yeah, it's like this all
Cycle.
these like factors that are connecting. And so
Yeah.
really thinking about the things that we can do and that are manageable. Because I love this piece that you
Mhm.
said. I also sometimes will think about like very small committed actions because I think
Right.
when we try to tackle too much or this all or nothing, or with a lot of, I work with perfectionistic clients that
Mhm.
they set themselves up a little bit for failure. And so I'll be like, okay, let's go back and think about what are the things that are achievable that you can actually start to do. And then, you can slowly build up to these things.
Mhm.
Okay, so that sounds like, and I love this other piece of like pausing, because I was kind of thinking through what have I done through life transitions when I
Mhm.
feel really stressed? I mean, one thing I think you kind of reference it was, seeking your people. So kind
Mhm.
of that isolation piece of like
Mhm.
finding your people that are going to help you get through it and aren't going to
Mhm.
judge. And knowing what type of support you need. Cause I know I have the friends that like who I need to turn to if I just want validation and a hug. I know I
Right.
have the friends that are going to give me some tough love.
Right.
I think, but like whoever those people are, like
Or
having
clinical, like, hey,
right,
help me break this down.
yeah, or right, exactly. Like who you're gonna go through for what. And I don't think, or your mentors, like I know with a lot of transitions in my career, I relied heavily on mentors that I
Mhm.
trusted and I looked up to and I
Yeah.
knew that they had my back. And so kind of that's one piece.
Yeah.
But I also think sometimes, like you said, pausing and taking a step back, and just kind of really sitting with like what is really coming up for you in this transition, right? Both individually, like what am I getting so stuck to, or enact like what is the thing that I'm avoiding, right? What's the thing that I'm like
Mhm.
moving away from that maybe I need to start to sit with. Um,
Right.
and even with couples, right? I think I think I actually find it's when you're in relationship, right? That's a lot harder at times to navigate that because it's not just your stuff, you're dealing with someone else's stuff.
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
and so like also, but I will tell a lot of times
Your
my
culture,
couples,
his culture, our culture, right? It's like three
yeah.
different entities right there. Yeah.
Right. And then like, we just kind of keep pinging off of each other, what you do, then I do, and so forth. And we get stuck in these negative cycles. It's like, really focusing on what you're doing, right? Because especially when you're in a relationship with someone, it's really easy to like blame and point fingers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thinking through like, okay, what's my role? What's showing up for me? So I think that self-reflection is really
Yeah.
key, to help you figure out like what is it that you need, or what is it that you're going through, and
Yeah.
also clearly having some grace that transitions are hard
For
but are a
sure.
great breeding ground for growth, like you said earlier.
Yeah. And to that is just, once we have that time for reflection, is also like working on ourselves to kind of create those tools, because Gottman does amazing work at like learning how to identify, like, let's call them red flags or
Mhm.
triggers, or on how to respond when you're feeling attacked or criticized. And like I really love that kind of work because it just makes you more mindful and being
Mhm.
able to like break those kind of nasty cycles that we find ourselves in with certain people in our
Yeah,
life. So and we do focus a lot on, I mean, I'm in most of my sessions, I think we focus a lot on learning some of these tools of like what works and what doesn't, you
yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So,
Because sometimes that's what we need, those
mhm,
very concrete things to help us kind of
mhm.
have new skills or new learning that we never had. Okay, so then
Right.
let's talk about a little bit about I'm sorry, how can retreats really help with transition? So I know, like we said earlier, this is what you're doing now. So how can retreats really help people move through these, or women or couples move through some of these transitions?
So when I was thinking about this project, I actually met with my mentor and she asked me, she's like, who are you writing this for? And I was like, and I really thought about it, and I really was writing it like with someone like me in mind, right? Of
Hmm.
like what are some of the things that I needed? And like, and then I was thinking, I started doing our research, of course, because research is essential.
Of
But
course.
like who wouldn't want to travel? Like think about like who wouldn't want to travel with a therapist?
Right. I mean,
Like that sounds genius.
yeah, for sure.
but
Yeah.
but an idea, with all jokes aside, the idea of creating these retreats is really about like stepping away from the chaos,
Hmm.
like seeing being immersed in nature, which I think is super, super important for our well-being, and just really kind of like focusing. Because like our sessions, our clients come to us for an hour and they do amazing work. And yes, we see them on a weekly basis and it's great, but then they go back to the chaos, right? They go back to
Mhm.
work and they go back to picking up the kids. And so just taking like 3, 4, 5 days to really kind of hyper focus on your mental health, I think is
Mhm.
such a great tool to be able to like,
Sure.
okay, these are the skills. I'm immersed in it. My main focus, only worry in these 3, 4, 5 days is me, my partner, my well-being, like whatever it is, whether it's the women's or the couples, that each of them have a theme. And like the way that I created the curriculum is that every day has a theme that we hyper focus on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then you eat good food, you see amazing nature, and like you go on excursions. So it's not just like, oh, mental health
Sure,
component.
sure,
It is also like it's wellness tourism, right? Like that's
sure.
kind of like where the trend is, I guess, in where it's going. But yeah, it's about kind of creating that space to like have fun, enjoy yourself, and also like learn a lot about how to reconnect with yourself and grow through
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you set up the perfect environment for some, like for women or couples to really self-reflect, right? To kind of get
Yeah.
outside of like the chaos, the routines, getting stuck, getting distracted by work or the kids or the in-laws or whatever else dynamics you have at home to really step outside. And this intention of like really focusing on yourself and having the space to do that, right? Having the space to focus not only on your emotional well-being, but like, focus just on this overall, like you said, mind body connection. And I
Mhm.
think being in a different setting where you have the ability to maybe sometimes sit with some self-reflections, right? Because like you said, we can think about someone who does the work for an hour, but then like, maybe they had like this aha moment, but they have to go right back into like, and
Right.
can they really sit with that or integrate it really and in a kind of retreat setting and it sounds like in a beautiful location. I've seen the pictures.
So beautiful.
Um, you have this ability to kind of really self-reflect and even slow
Mhm.
down and like that kind of this mindfulness component. And not that it has to be this very formalized way, it can be, but just having this moment to really be present with yourself and listen to yourself about like what is actually showing up for you during these moments in transition. And I think I work a lot with my clients from this place of values, like how do
Mhm.
you want to show up to this hard moment in your life,
Right,
because you
right.
can't avoid it, you can't escape it. And it sounds like this setting just gives this rich environment to really explore that and figure out what that means and looks like for you.
I mean, the location is absolutely stunning. Absolutely. Like it, I walked in and I was like, the vision just came to me. I didn't come to it. Like it was
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. But also, like, just kind of going back to what you were saying is that sometimes when our clients do have this aha moment and then they go back and then it gets uncomfortable, like most of our clients will put it away or leave it till the next session and then something gets lost in translation in that moment. But having being in this retreat setting, like you're there, you
Hmm.
work through it, like, right? So
Hmm.
even if you have this moment of like learning, like you can actually integrate that into your
Hmm.
life. And I do offer my clients like this workbook that I've created for them that they can take home after the retreat, right? So
Hmm.
we want them to like continue to integrate this into
Sure.
their lives post retreat. It's not just like, oh, 5 days of vacationing. It's
Sure.
it's yeah, you're coming in to learn, but you're also coming in to have fun and to disconnect and to really like feel yourself. But also we want you to take it home and continue that journey post the retreat as well.
Yeah, well, I think about like even like these purely health retreats where some people will go and do all these like biohacks and labs and this and that. But
Mhm.
the whole goal of that is not just to do that, but then to
Right.
figure out how to integrate that into your life, right? So it's like, okay,
Right.
you're trying to change these or figure these out, and then kind of same thing. It's like the
Mhm.
goal is then to integrate these like new learnings or self reflections, either individually or as a couple, into your life. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's I guess let's do a little rapid fire here for just
Okay.
as a fun part. Okay,
Okay.
what's one thing every woman should pack for a retreat?
Open mind.
Okay.
Is that
Oh,
okay?
I love that. You're kind of getting a style of Fatima style because I would have been much more concrete. Like, you need to pack a passport.
Yes. Sunscreen.
Fair. No, no, no. Let's look at the first one. Open mind. I love it. Okay, open
Yeah.
mind. What's the most inspiring transformation you've seen at a retreat?
I mean, I think for me, seeing a woman go from a place of self-doubt to
Mm.
trusting herself
Yes.
brings tears to my eyes. Like really, like it makes me emotional even just talking about it. But like seeing a woman like really feel herself and like trust herself from a place where she felt broken
Mhm.
is the biggest transformations that I have seen.
Yeah, and such a huge one. And you say self-doubt, and a lot of my viewers, like you'll see
Mhm.
I have a whole bunch of videos on self-doubt because that's such to go
Mhm.
from this like place of doubting yourself to like being grounded in yourself and
Mhm.
knowing, right, whether it's uncertainty, anxiety, fear, whatever it is that's showing up when you can ground in yourself and trust yourself. That's
Mhm.
like a huge, like you're unstoppable. Like there's nothing that you can face that doesn't mean it won't be hard, but you know, like you can trust yourself to get through it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll do, I guess, the last one. What's your favorite part about hosting retreats in Ecuador?
I have to pick one.
One.
Location.
Location. Okay. Okay. Location.
Oh, that one's hard. That one's hard, Diana. No. Uh, I mean, I love I really love everything about what we're doing in these retreats. I love the people. I love what we're offering, the mind-body connection. Yes, the location is absolutely stunning. But it's a really an amazing investment to mental health. And in a really fun, unusual way, like there's not a lot of this out there. So I love that, we're creating our own little niche.
Yeah. Well, it as you described it all, it sounds like the favorite part is like there's this part of you that loves to see transformation in a different way, and you're like really excited about it. You're fired up as you're
Yes,
talking about it. I can see that
yes.
this is something that really
Yeah,
spoke to you. So like it sounds like that quality, if we have to name it, maybe is your favorite part, which means all of it, but like that
yeah.
quality of that passion for helping people make this transformation in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's also very personal for me, right? Like it's a very full circle moment. Like I said, I was raised in Ecuador and
Mhm.
born and raised, and being able to bring my expertise to a country that I love, that has given me
Oh,
so much, like the land, the food, the people, like love it. And so it really is very full circle for me. Just being able to go back there and do something like this with a career that I absolutely love and just kind of melt it together and kind of create my own little thing is, oh, it really is. Like, I'm so excited.
well, it sounds like this is a transition you're going through, but it's like you're tapping into some of your roots here as well. You're just like
Yeah.
really kind of full circle moment, like you said, where you're going like all these different, like this transition going back to your country of origin, hosting it there, this transition and like this evolution as this wellness provider in a different way.
Yeah.
So this is like just a
Yeah.
transition for you as well.
Well, I really do believe that this stemmed from that hardship, or that, like, oh my gosh, my mom hat is changing. What am I going to do with my life? So yeah, I definitely think that something amazing and beautiful and passionate can come from difficult transitions. Even though I'm still have many emotions around my children leaving. um,
Of course.
but yeah, I mean, I think that that's where it comes from. Like, I think this stemmed from a place of that. So I always say, like, there's always something beautiful that comes from something hard
Mhm.
or difficult or transitional. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think and that's because you chose to do that, right?
Mhm.
Because I think you chose to do that like internal work and say like this is a hard moment for me.
Yeah.
And but it's like how do I want to then show up or respond to this moment and what do I want to do with this really hard moment to make it meaningful?
Yeah.
Um and so that's a testament to you and it sounds like a testament to the people that are, willing to do these retreats is that they're saying this is a hard moment in my life and like
Mhm.
I want this to mean something, or what does this mean to me? What
Yeah.
does this mean to me? What does this mean to me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I guess my last question for the viewers is anyone that's watching, what would you say to someone that's feeling stuck and unsure? So Fatima and I have shared a little bit about what we do, what we share with clients, but tell us, comment below. What do you guys do? What would you share with someone that's going through a difficult transition?
Mhm.
All right. And so as we start to wrap up, Fatima, is there any either closing words you want to share with people who are watching?
I mean, the biggest message that I would send for anybody that's going through any transition, like I know it's super scary and I know it feels super overwhelming, but you're definitely not alone. And there's so many resources out there and so many women that are going through the same thing and couples too. And it's just, it's breaking through whatever stigmas we've created or society has created, is just taking that space to like really listen to yourself and see what comes out, because I'm sure it's beautiful. So
Yeah.
that's
You're,
the message I would say.
you're not alone. You're definitely not alone.
Mhm.
We who work with people see it. We who are humans and struggle know it. So just like really know and keep that in mind. All right. And so if people want to learn more about your retreat, sign up for your retreats. You're hosting two beautiful retreats soon coming up.
In September.
Where in September, where can they
Yes.
find out more?
So they can follow us on Instagram, Ember_retreats, and send us a message there, or they can email us, and all their information is on our Instagram page. They can email us at retreats@mindfuldirectionscc.com. Or yeah, that I mean, I think that those would be the best places to reach out
Okay.
to us.
And all of that will be in the description below. So the best way to
Yes.
kind of get the information about the retreat, how to contact Fatima through Instagram or her email to get more information,
Mhm.
you can all find on the description below. All
Yes.
right. So as we wrap up this conversation, if you like these types of conversations, just type yes so I know to do more of these. I will say it's a nice shift for me of not just me talking or sharing a topic, but engaging with someone else and learning and connecting. So if you like these types of conversations, say yes, because I have so many ideas of other people that I would love to talk to, fabulous therapists just like Fatima. All right. And then, like I always say, I encourage you guys to continue nurturing your mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like, maybe at a retreat. All right, guys, have a good one.